Discover 7 spine-chilling sugar mommy horrors that will haunt your dreams forever. Jake, a 30-something handyman in the sleepy suburb of Maplewood, unknowingly stepped into a nightmare disguised as a dream. The scent of freshly mowed lawns and the cheerful clatter of family BBQs echoed through the streets, masking an undercurrent of something sinister. Imagine how it feels to be buried under mountains of debt, each bill a looming shadow, while the American dream teased you like a mirage just out of reach. At night, when the hum of cicadas settled in, Jake became a quiet observer of a life he longed for: a successful contractor, a carefree spirit. Instead, he was just a day laborer, tightening screws and repairing fences, hounded by thoughts of financial ruin. One afternoon, while lost in the relentless scroll of social media feeds, he stumbled upon sensational ads for Sugar Mommies, wealthy women seeking younger men for companionship. Intrigued, Jake mused about the idea, the flickering images of glamour igniting a spark deep within him. What secrets lay behind closed doors adorned with crystal chandeliers and the laughter of the affluent? It started as a goofy adventure, a trivial escape from reality. Little did he know, every click sank him deeper into a world swathed in allure and darkness. Jake's first date with Vivian was nothing short of surreal. Lavish dinners sparkled under shimmering candlelight, laughter echoed, and each gift felt like a slice of the life he'd been missing. But beneath the laughter whispered an unsettling tension. Jake found himself caught in a web woven with the threads of wealth, each strand tugging at his deepest roots and aspirations. Family BBQs turned into heartfelt whispers. "What's with you, Jake?" his sister Melanie would ask, concern crossing her lips like a storm brewing in the distance. He felt a tightening in his chest, a wrestling match between these new desires and the love he had for his family. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One fateful evening at Vivian's estate, grandeur masked a dull thud echoing in the opulent halls. Knights of wealth seated around a table embellished with riches seemed like a mirage. Eyes were glazed over, smiles too wide. It was here, amidst the laughter, that Jake glimpsed the truth: the sugar mommies were cast in shadows darker than his debts. They were witches, intent on extracting hopes and dreams, siphoning his very essence while promising affluence. Sudden panic gripped him, and in that moment, the illusion shattered. Not only was he losing himself, but he was also losing the precious connections that had always anchored him to reality: his family, his friends, his home. With each passing day, the spell twisted tighter. Danger loomed, warping into nightmares. Melanie, fierce and unwavering, rallied their family to uncover the truth hidden behind velvet curtains and whispered secrets in Maplewood. As the moon waxed fuller, Jake teetered on the precipice of choice: would he shatter this ornate prison or succumb to the destructive allure of power and riches? Vivian's next enticing offer dangled like a baited hook, her eyes glimmering with an energy that quieted his fears but threatened to consume him. In that moment, as the darkness enveloped him, one thought resonated: how far would he go before he became just another lost dream in their sinister game? Sweat beaded on Jake's brow as he lingered in Vivian's grand parlor, a mix of opulence and eeriness crawling across his skin. With each clink of glasses and laughter ricocheting off the walls, he felt as if he was standing on the edge of a cliff. The abyss yawned beneath him. Something primal stirred in his gut, forcing a choice: stay, or flee. How about another toast? Vivian's voice cut through his panic like a siren's call. Her smile gleamed, but there was an unspeakable darkness behind it, shadows flickering behind her eyes that made him shudder. He raised his glass, a half-hearted cheer slipping from his lips, feeling the weight of the room pressing inwards, tightening around his chest. The others watched intently, every gaze a beam of scrutiny that felt like a spotlight. Each glimmer of wine held promises, sure, but also threats wrapped in velvet. He forced a smile, the sound of crystal clinking against crystal echoing in his ears, already filling it with hollow claps of doom. Laughter filled the air, a melody that danced with manipulation. What was he becoming? A shadow flickered in the corner of the room, and for a second, he thought he saw Melanie's determined face staring back at him from behind a set of heavy drapes. Panic surged. What was she doing here? Did she know? Before he could process it, Vivian's voice wrapped around him like silk, drawing him back into the moment. "I want to show you something extraordinary," she said, her eyes glimmering with mischief, offering him a glimpse of the excess he craved but knew he couldn't handle. She beckoned him toward an arched doorway, the whispers of the other sugar mommies pulling him in, like moths to a flame. As they crossed the threshold, Jake felt time slow. The room was dimly lit, adorned with bizarre artifacts that sent chills down his spine. A twisted sculpture of a tangle of women, their faces contorted in ecstasy and agony, loomed over one corner. Warning bells rang, yet he followed her deeper into the shadows, caught in a trance of attraction and dread. "Sit," she commanded, her tone thick with authority. Jake complied, feeling the cool leather of the chair wrap around him with an unsettling comfort. Vivian leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. "In every choice, Jake, lies power. You either take it or lose it. But to gain it, well, sacrifices must be made." He felt a chill racing through him, the finality of those words shifting something deep inside. The room echoed with unspoken horror, the essence of deals made in darkness. With a flick of her wrist, she revealed a ledger, pages yellowed, edges worn. "Many have come before you, each willing to pay the price." Her eyes burned with a fevered intensity, and Jake could feel the weight of countless souls pressing into his skin, remnants of dreams devoured. Suddenly, his sister's voice pierced through the dense fog of desire and fear. "Jake!" The floodgates of something primal opened, an ice-cold fear that surged through him like electricity. Desperation twisted at his gut. "Don't listen to her!" Melanie shouted, stepping into view, her bright blue eyes fierce, unyielding. "You're better than this. We can get through this together." Jake's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of conflict. Vivian's manipulative grip tightened around his consciousness as they all stared, the room locked in a battle between the siren call of wealth and the steadfast love of family. As the tension thickened, a shattering laughter erupted behind him, echoing with tantalizing promise. "Choose wisely, Jake. We don't all make it out alive." The shadows twisted, writhing with danger, leaving him standing at a crossroads of fate. Would he step into the darkness or cling to the light? His decision loomed, heavy with implications that ensnared all he held dear. The air crackled with suspense, and only a heartbeat later, the ground beneath him shifted. The walls whispered secrets, the clock ticked down. How could he save himself without losing everything he loved? Would the lure of riches seal his fate, or would the loving bond of family snatch him back from the brink? He swallowed hard, eyes darting between Vivian's beckoning allure and Melanie's fierce plea. In that moment, Jake understood that the choice he faced wasn't merely between wealth and family, it was about the very essence of who he was and the nightmares he would awaken to. "Jake," Vivian purred, as shadows loomed behind her, "are you ready to pay the price?" The question hung in the air like a loaded gun, waiting to go off. What he would choose could unleash horrors he couldn't even begin to fathom. And just as he opened his mouth to speak, the lights flickered ominously, plunging him into darkness. The darkness enveloped Jake, a heavy blanket that suffocated the laughter and chatter from the gallery outside. His heart thumped violently in his chest as he grappled with the weight of the moment. He could barely see Vivian, her outline now a sinister silhouette accentuated by flashes of light that sputtered in the room. "Jake." Melanie's voice trembled, resonating through the haze with a raw urgency that shattered the silence. "Are you okay? We have to get out of here." He could sense the fear in her words, the desperation clawing at her throat. Yet he was rooted to the spot, paralyzed by the choice looming before him. The ledger, the promises it contained, whispered into the silence, casting shadows darker than before. Vivian's presence seemed to grow, an encroaching storm of temptation. "You can have it all, Jake. Power, money, freedom, it's yours for the taking. All you have to do is cross the threshold. The faint glow of emergency lights flickered back on, casting ghostly shadows across the walls and illuminating the room's grotesque decor. The sculpture of the twisted women appeared even more haunting. They seemed to writhe in pain, a visual reminder of the gains and losses that came with deals like these. Don't listen to her, Jake. Melanie's voice pierced the air, a beacon of clarity in the gloom. This isn't like you. You're not some pawn in her game. Vivian let out a soft laugh, smooth yet cruel, the sound curling around him like smoke. Oh, but he has a taste for the game, doesn't he? Isn't that what drew you here, Jake? The allure of something greater. He sought her gaze, a mixture of wonder and horror flashing within him. Could he really possess the power she promised? Would the path she offered truly redeem him, or would it lead him to ruin? Melanie stepped forward, her hands reaching out, imploring. Remember Mom? She wouldn't want you to go down this path. Please, just think. We can find a way out, together. The image of their mother flickered in his mind, warm and comforting, a stark contrast to the cold tendrils of greed wrapping around him. But the glittering prospects Vivian dangled were intoxicating, whispering sweet promises of escape from the mundane. The battle inside him raged, love versus desire, loyalty against ambition. Just a small taste, Vivian purred, as if sensing his hesitation. Just a tiny step closer. One signature, and your world will change. The ledger lay open on the table, its ancient pages beckoning him with tales of jubilation and despair alike. There was a moment, a heartbeat, where it felt as if the world held its breath, waiting for his choice. Just then, the lights flicked back on fully, flickering and stabilizing, forcing Jake's eyes to adjust. The guests beyond the threshold, wide-eyed and frozen in disbelief, stared into the room where a struggle unfolded. Their whispers slithered into the space, a web spun of judgment, intrigue, and horror. Look at him, caught in her net, one of the Sugar Mommies marveled, her voice dripping with anticipation. Another chuckled ominously, let us see if he can break free. Jake felt the rush of adrenaline, a wild instinct clawing at his insides. Every soul in the room bore witness to the faltering of his resolve, aware that the price of his choice could mean everything or nothing at all. Please, Jake. Melanie's voice shattered through the chaos. Her eyes glimmered, frantic yet fierce. We're stronger than this. Jake's breath quickened. The ground beneath him shifted again, a tangible representation of the torment inside him. He was teetering, tipping towards a precipice that threatened to plunge him into a darkness he could scarcely comprehend. Make your choice, Jake. Be reborn or drown, Vivian whispered, a serpent's hiss curling around her words, and then, just as he finally tensed to respond, the lights flared one last time, and the earth under his feet cracked open like a chasm. He stumbled back, the ledger slipping from Vivian's fingers, pages fluttering like a panicked bird caught in a storm. With a flash, its contents exploded from within, swirling. Images of faces, lost souls of previous deals filling the dim air. Their cries, muffled yet clear, echoed around him, piercing through the veil of temptation. Jake blinked at the flurry of old memories, saturating the space with screams, shouts, and gurgled pleas for mercy. His pulse quickened, panic clawing at him. How could he escape this nightmare? Yet there it was, a figure lurking in the shadows beyond the drifting ghosts, a face he recognized. His heart plummeted. The agony of realization settled like a stone in his gut. What now? He breathed, caught in a web woven with secrets and dread. The world around him shifted again, and the shadows thickened. As he reached toward the flickering figures, the voice of his mother echoed in his mind, "Run, Jake. Just run." But could he still escape? Or was it too late? And then, from deep within the roiling chaos, a hand reached out, not at him, but through the shadows, reaching for something sinister nearby. What secret was now unleashed? The room turned into absolute chaos, the swirling images of tortured faces and Jessica's pleaded cries around him sinking deeper into his psyche. As the tangible darkness wrapped tighter, Jake's mind raced. The familiar figure emerged closer, taking form amidst the chaos, its edges sharp and defined. Jake, the voice was soft but firm, breaking through the din that threatened to drown everything out. It was his mother. But how could it be? Her spirit had long since departed. No, he whispered, shaking his head, afraid of the implication. You're not real. Oh, but I am, the figure insisted, stepping from the shadows, her silhouette gently glowing as it pushed away the gloom. I'm everything you ever wished for and everything you've betrayed. This is not the way, Jake. As she spoke, the air vibrated with the weight of her disappointment. Tears stung his eyes, memories crashing in like waves. He remembered how she used to tell him to always choose the light over the shadows, to be a man of integrity. But here he was, teetering on the edge of darkness, ready to abandon everything. Vivian's laughter rang out, a monster lurking behind his mother's light. Foolish boy. You think this specter offers you comfort? She'll lead you straight to despair. We both know you've yearned for power, and here it is. Why not take it? Because it isn't worth it. Jake shouted back, the conviction building inside him. He glanced at Melanie, who was shaking her head, her expression desperate yet resolute. He needed her, but could he trust her fully? Her eyes shone with a fierce determination, urging him on. You heard her, Jake. It's an illusion, don't get lost in the past. In that moment, the room seemed to pulsate. Images from the ledger danced erratically as if trying to wrap him in their grasp. Faces lurched toward him, mouths gaping in silent screams, voices clamoring for escape. Make your choice. Vivian's voice thundered, a taunting crescendo, echoing like a curse. No. His heart raced as he stepped closer to his mother's apparition. I'm not afraid of you, or anything you represent. I choose my path, not the darkness you offer. I want to protect her. In his declaration, the distorted faces momentarily recoiled, as if recoiling from a clear light. But Vivian's presence hovered closer, the tendrils of her influence pressing against his resolve. You're going to choose her over everything? Vivian scoffed, a sharp laugh. You will regret this. As he reached toward the light of his mother, a blinding flash erupted between them, and he felt the ground tremble beneath him. The ledger, once torn and fluttering, now glowed ominously, filling the room with a blistering heat. It became almost alive, rumbling and shaking, possessed by ferocity. Suddenly, a rift opened beneath the chaos, a swirling vortex pulling at everything around it, the ghosts, the memories, the darkness itself. Breathless, Jake grasped Melanie's hand, but even that grip felt strained, as shadows reached for them. Now what? She yelled, panic spilling into her voice as the air thickened. Are we going down with them? Distracted by the pull, Jake's choice flickered in his mind. Just a moment more. He could still tug them back into the warmth of life, or plunge into the abyss of greed. Stay with me. He shouted, holding tight as the rift expanded. He could feel his mother's presence urging him, the strength he felt growing inside him. Then, in that instant, the ledger exploded in a flash of light, and everything transformed. What is happening? Melanie gasped, wide-eyed as blinding light engulfed the room. Instead of falling into darkness, they were thrust into a brilliant spectrum of vibrant storm where memory and reality fused. Fragments of laughter, warmth, light, and despair danced around them, and Jake felt something shifting inside. Close your eyes. He commanded, grounding his presence. As they did, a whisper floated above the maelstrom. Remember who you are, Jake. But would he remember in time to escape the depths of the darkness? Or was it too late to reclaim freedom from despair as they were barreling deeper into the intensity of chaos? Only one truth remained. The shadows were momentarily held at bay, but they were fighting hard to come back. What awaited them on the other side of the light? The light enveloped them, wrapping around Jake and Melanie like a protective shield. He could feel the intensity of it surge, 1,000 memories swirling within. The warmth was reassuring, yet something deeper tugged at his gut, whispering of dangers that lurked just beyond the spectrum's brilliance. Jake, what do we do? Melanie's voice trembled as they floated through the kaleidoscope, disorienting colors bleeding into each other. I can't see anything. Just hold on. Jake replied, his grip tightening around her hand. But was he really in control? With each passing moment, doubt clawed at him as shadows at the edges of their consciousness began to skulk back, hungry and relentless that he remembered a time when his mom would tell him stories about bravery, the kind that separated true heroes from mere mortals. It's about what you choose when everything seems lost, she'd say. Her words echoed painfully in his mind. He had a choice to make. Again, suddenly, the vivid light faltered. Dark shadows rippled through, their whispers growing louder, threatening to swallow the spectrum whole. Specters from the past nodded together in agony, their faces morphing as if they had crawled from the depths of his worst fears. Stay strong, Jake. Melanie shouted above the cacophony of agony. We can't let them pull us back. But Vivian's mocking laughter sliced through their resolve. You think that light can save you? You're already tangled in the web of your own making. You know what you truly desire. No. Jake roared, trying to drown out her voice. He recalled the warmth of love, the strength of integrity. But the darkness coiled tighter, warning of sacrifices. Images of endless power flared up, beckoning seductively. Those very shadows promised he could control everything if only he dared to embrace that path. Don't listen to her. This is your moment to define who you are. Melanie cried, desperation lacing her tone. He could see the strain in her eyes, the pulse of fear rippling through her. She was fighting for him, and he felt that spark of hope ignite a fragile flicker, but a flicker nonetheless. It had to be enough. With their hands locked together, he summoned every ounce of willpower. I choose the light. I choose to protect love over greed. The declaration burst through him like a force of nature, resonating within the very fabric of their being. As Jake's words echoed defiantly, the shadows recoiled, howling in fury. The spectral faces twisted in disappointment as they were washed away by a new wave of brilliance. The room trembled, light shattering the grips of darkness. But peace was far from reach. Suddenly, a chilling breeze swept through, and the shadows cracked open like thunder, ushering in a new entity. An ominous figure emerged from the depths, clad in tattered remnants of once great glory, eyes aflame with vengeance. Dare you defy me? The voice chilled Jake to the soul. It was a grotesque reflection of himself, an avatar of all the desires he had fought against. No, not you. Jake staggered back, dread lacing his every thought. The figure grinned wide, revealing sharp teeth that glimmered with malice. Every choice you make begets a consequence, dear Jake, it taunted, and with a flick, Jake felt the world flicker again beneath his feet. Melanie, run! He yelled, but it was too late. The figure charged forward, ready to claim its prize. Jake! Melanie gasped, her voice echoing as the torrent of shadows surged once more. Jake's heart raced, the looming darkness spilling over their last few threads of light. He had to confront this monster now or risk losing everything. What new horrors awaited him in this relentless storm of shadows? Would the light be enough to extinguish the darkness for good, or was he locked in an eternal battle between desire and integrity? Every choice would ripple into the unknown. The malevolent figure surged towards them, its form distorting like a reflection in a broken mirror. Jake's breath hitched. The thing before him was not just a specter but a manifestation of every regret, every dark temptation he had pushed aside. The weight of its presence pressed down like an invisible shroud. Stay back! Jake shouted, his voice barely breaking through the cacophony of darkness swirling around them. He tightened his grip on Melanie, grounding himself against the fear spiraling out of control. The shadows writhed, as if the entity's very essence fed off their fear. Do you really think you can fight me? The entity laughed, its voice dripping with malice. I am everything you wish to be. Power, happiness, and freedom all within your grasp if you choose me. Don't listen. We can't let it in. Melanie cried, her eyes wide with terror. She pulled Jake closer, their hearts beating in sync with the frantic rhythm of their desperation. In that moment, a flicker of doubt crept through Jake's resolve. Could he really defeat this? The darkness whispered lies like a seductive song, promising him everything he had ever wanted. It was a tantalizing melody that threatened to drown out Melanie's urging voice. "Jake!" she yelled again, jolting him back. "Remember who you are." Her words ignited a fire in his chest, cutting through the fog of despair. With newfound determination, he glanced at the entity. "You're just a shadow, a trick." He stepped forward despite the quaking ground beneath him. "I want to become you." The entity snarled, its jagged teeth gleaming. "You fight against your own desires. Run to me, embrace your true self." It lunged, dark tendrils snaking toward them like hungry vipers. With every ounce of strength, Jake's mind raced, recalling his mother's lessons on being brave. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's doing what's right despite it. The light they had summoned flickered again, rekindling as he focused on the love he felt for Melanie, the bond that had brought them this far. "Together!" he shouted. He closed his eyes, channeling every good memory he had of her, the laughter, their shared dreams, the feeling of warmth in the darkest nights. Light surged around them, brighter than anything he had ever conjured before. The figure shrieked, its form beginning to lose shape, but it clawed at the edges of their light, trying to worm its way back into their hearts. "You cannot escape me, Jake. I am your rage, your frustration. Without me, you are nothing. No. You're a lie." Jake yelled, refusing to yield. The light pulsed, a shockwave radiating outward. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in agony as the truth burned through their fabric. "Melanie!" Jake called, heart pounding. "We have to push together. Focus." A radiant energy surged through their joined hands, and just like that, all doubt vanished. A white-hot beam of light erupted from them, crashing into the darkness and shattering it like glass. But the darkness would not go quietly. In its final screech, the entity twisted, unraveling into an even darker void that threatened to swallow them whole. A shadowy pulse echoed ominously, and in its wake, a chilling laugh lingered, the promise of this fight not being over. Jake's heart sank as gaps began to materialize, revealing glimpses into myriad dark worlds, each one filled with threats that lurked just beyond the reach of their light. "Jake, what's happening?" Melanie whispered, her voice trembling against the overwhelming darkness looming just beyond. As the shadows rushed back to reclaim their territory, the fight for their liberation was far from finished. What awaited them in those yawning voids? The pulse of dread drummed louder, and the unrelenting voice from the shadows taunted them. The moment of truth was near, but were they strong enough to face the horrors that lay ahead? The air thickened, wrapping around them like a vice as the shadows loomed closer. Jake's heart raced, the rhythm echoing the dread pulsating in the depths of his mind. He glanced at Melanie, her face pale, eyes wide with uncertainty. This remnant of darkness was relentless. It hungered. "Hold on tight," Jake urged, squeezing her hand as tendrils of darkness slithered dangerously close, mocking their light. They were standing on the cusp of some otherworldly brink, and every instinct screamed for them to flee. Yet, deep down, they both knew they couldn't run. Overhead, a shadow broke free from the fabric of the void, a shape shifting and swirling like smoke caught in a breeze. It drew nearer, a grotesque maw forming in that swirling mass, ready to devour them whole. "Look!" Melanie shouted, pointing. A rift opened wide, revealing the chaotic world beyond. Unfathomable shades and grotesque figures danced within, a constant churn of fear and despair vying for their attention. Jake felt it, a cold pang in his gut, a desperate urge to recoil. But all he could do was stand there as shadows lunged at them, like grasping fingers hungry for reality. "No. We can't let it pull us in," he yelled over the relentless whispers that clawed at his sanity. "Together." Melanie echoed once more, her voice strong, cutting through the chaos like a battle cry. Fueled by her determination, Jake drew deep, drawing from this bond of strength. They couldn't falter, not when they had each other. The shadows snarled, shifting as if pained by the light they created. You think you can resist me? Embrace your darkness. The entity's chaotic laughter reverberated through the air, sending jolts of fear through Jake's core. Suddenly, a vision broke through the chaos, his childhood home engulfed in darkness, a memory that clawed at his insides. He saw his mother, frail and teetering on the edge of sorrow, her tears spilling like rivers. You promise you'll be better. Her voice faded, leaving cold echoes. He staggered back, and in that moment, it was as if the shadows were feeding on his memories, twisting them into a malodorous brew of lies. Jake! Melanie's voice snapped back his focus, pulling him from the brink. Fight it. Rage surged within him. You're nothing more than a con artist twisting my fears. You will not take my past. Fury ignited brighter than ever, illuminating more than just the void. It revealed his strength, the love between them that would break the shadows. Together. Jake shouted, amplifying their light, unleashing it into a brilliant beam that shot through the fabric of darkness. The entity howled. Foolish. You can't tear through the veil. It screeched, flailing against the advancing brightness. The shadows surrounding them wavered, faltered. Yet, as they pressed on, Jake felt another flicker of doubt creep in. What if they were merely postponing the inevitable? The laughter of the entity echoed like thunder, and he could feel the weight behind its words, a promise that everything came with a price. Just as victory felt within reach, the shadows convulsed violently. A form emerged from the vortex, an even darker entity, looming larger, bearing razor-sharp teeth, dripped in darkness. Your struggle has only begun, little souls. You cannot escape the fabric of your own despair. Jake! Melanie gasped, pulling him closer as the world around them quaked with imminent danger. The raw force of the darkness reverberated through their bodies, igniting panic within. In that moment of blinding uncertainty, one scorching question burned through his mind: would they be strong enough to confront this new nightmare? The glassy eye of the malevolent figure locked onto them, its grin widening. Welcome to the true depths of your horror, and I promise, it's just beginning. Jake felt the abyss of dread yawn wide around them, a swirling tempest of chaos. Would their love hold against this surge of terror, or was this just the opening act of a far worse fate? The pulse of uncertainty thrummed in the air, and one thought lingered: how far would they go to protect each other when true darkness fell? The shadows whipped around them, a storm of darkness and despair. Jake held tight to Melanie's hand, but the grip was slowly slipping as the massive entity loomed closer. Its jagged teeth glistened, dripping with the essence of dread, almost mocking their defiance. Stay with me, he shouted, desperation cracking his voice. They were both trembling, hearts pounding in sync with the throbs of impending doom. The rift pulsed with malevolence, echoing as if it breathed with a life of its own, and inside its depths, Jake saw faces twisted in anguish, cries trapped within a void they couldn't escape. Look away, Melanie pleaded, her fear igniting a fight-or-flight instinct in him. But every glance toward the abyss was like a magnet, pulling him closer to despair. It felt like home, a chaotic, suffocating embrace that beckoned. No, I won't, he roared, forcing his focus back to Melanie. We'll fight together. The entity stopped, for a moment, as if pondering their resilience. Foolish mortals. Your unity cannot outshine the depths of your own darkness. The shadows echoed its words, weaving a tapestry of fear that draped over them. Images flashed in Jake's mind: nights spent alone, haunted by guilt and self-doubt. Every moment he felt unworthy of love tugged at him like chains. The desperation swelled, grappling with his resolve. Face it, Jake, Melanie cried out, her voice rising above the cacophony. This is just fear. It can't hurt us unless we let it. Her determination ignited a glimmer of light that sparkled in the darkness, fighting the encroaching gloom. With a deep breath, Jake focused on that light, feeling it warm within him. You're right, he declared, channeling every bit of love he felt for her, for life itself. They had come this far, they couldn't back down now. He felt their bond wrap around them like a shield. Together, they shouted, "We are not afraid." The entity recoiled, as if struck, momentarily stunned by their boldness. Shadows writhed, hissing, but they held their ground. Light danced around them, flickering defiantly against the darkness. The monstrous figure snarled, eyes narrowing. "Pathetic. You think you can escape the truth lurking within?" The sinister undertone twisted through the air like smoke, filling Jake's lungs with dread. In that moment, something clicked in Jake's mind. It's lying. It feeds on our fears, our regrets, but they're not the whole of who we are. Melanie's expression shifted, determination building behind her fear. What if we take the pain, turn it against the shadows? A surge of hope ignited within him. Yes. Every hurt, every regret, let us turn them into strength. They locked eyes, and in that instant, they both understood. There was pain, yes, but there were also victories, moments of joy that could overpower whatever lay within those shadows. With a fierce yell, they pushed the love and the light deeper, deeper into the heart of darkness. "Your darkness is nothing but an illusion." They screamed in unison, forcing their combined light against the entity's ghastly visage. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of anger and fear, as the entity began to dissolve, twisting and curling back into the void from whence it came. Just as it seemed done for, a violent backlash struck them, sending waves of shadowy force crashing into their resolve. "Don't let it take us." Jake gritted through clenched teeth, focusing on Melanie's strength, finding grounding in her unwavering spirit. As the last remnants of shadows clawed at them, a horrifying thought gripped him. What if their love wasn't enough? What if all along, the true adversary was not the entity but the darkness within themselves? The darkness went quiet, as if waiting, holding its breath. The chilling question reverberated, bouncing off the walls of Jake's mind, and the air grew cold. Was it possible that the very fear they fought was tied to something even darker beneath the surface? In that moment, the silence was deafening, anticipation draped over them like a heavy cloak. Jake felt the weight of uncertainty lingering, an ominous promise that their greatest trials were yet to come. Would they find the strength to confront the true monsters hiding within? As the echoes of their defiance hung in the air, a palpable stillness settled over the rift. Jake's heart raced, the tension blending with trepidation. He and Melanie stood on the precipice, facing a void that held their deepest fears. Silence filled the space, wrapped around them like a suffocating fog. Melanie's voice trembled, breaking the stillness. She clutched his hand tighter. "What if we can't do this? What if that darkness is right?" "Don't say that." He fought to keep his voice steady, but the doubt seeped in, wrapping itself around his throat. "We've come too far to turn back. We have to believe." But belief felt like sand slipping through their fingers. The truth of their fears stalked them quietly, whispering vile secrets in the shadows. Shadows birthed from childhood memories of loneliness, betrayals they couldn't shake, and insecurities that clawed at their hearts. Suddenly, the air shimmered, twisting as the shadows solidified into shapes. Familiar faces emerged from the darkness, their expressions etched with pain. Friends and loved ones, now mere puppets of despair. Jake froze, a chill slicing through him. "Is that Mom?" He gasped, recognizing the hollow gaze of his mother, a woman long lost to the grips of addiction. She appeared like a mirage, lost and hopeless. Melanie gasped, her eyes widening. "Jake, don't look. They're not real." But the images twisted, coiling tightly around his heart. "But they feel so real." He shouted, fighting to push the memories away. Each face, each expression crept deeper into him, like icy fingers tugging at the core of his being. "How do we fight these? They're our past." Melanie squeezed his hand. "We fight because we're not those versions anymore. We're different. We've grown." She glared at the shadows, her voice rising over the tide of despair. "You can't hold us down forever." The shadows roared back, their anger like thunder. "You think you've escaped? We are a part of you. They hissed, clawing closer. No. Here and now, we choose our paths. Jake yelled back, fueled by a flicker of hope from Melanie's unwavering belief. The grip of the darkness faltered for just a moment. Do you remember the day we faced the storm together? Melanie called out. That day we didn't back down. This is no different. Jake felt a shift. She was right. They had battled storms more tangible than this. He rallied his thoughts, focusing on memories that brought joy, laughter, the love they had shared. Look. They have no power over us unless we let them. As they shared their light, the memories flickered, fighting against the shadows pouring from the rift. Each joyful moment they recalled sparked like fireworks within them, scattering the gloom. With a surge of unity, they shouted, "You don't define us." The entity screeched, a painful cry that rattled their bones. The shadows backed off, dimming. Jake felt a shift, but as the figures began to dissolve, another shadow loomed larger. The darkness pulsed and twisted, now taking on an even more sinister form, something new and terrifying. What is that? Melanie whispered, her confidence wavering as a figure emerged, darker than the night itself. Its eyes glowed, feral and hungry. You think you've won? This is only the beginning. The voice was a low growl, sending shivers down their spines. Jake's stomach churned. We'll fight it. He said, though uncertainty crept back in, heavier than before. Then came a chilling realization. The true fight was not only against the darkness looming around them but also against the darkness awakening within. They had barely begun to untangle the knots tying them to their fears. What if this new horror was something they could only face alone? With hearts pounding, they steeled themselves for yet another battle. But would love be enough to carry them through this uncharted darkness? As the figure crept closer, its intentions more sinister, Jake felt the weight of dread settle over them once again. In a world filled with shadows, would they find the light needed to push through till dawn? The shadows writhed like serpents around Jake and Melanie, a grotesque display of darkness filled with venomous intent. The weight of despair thickened the air until it choked their resolve, but they stood firm, hand in hand, battling the turbulence that sought to engulf them. The new figure loomed larger, its presence swallowing the room. Do you truly think you can escape the shadows within? It hissed, its voice curling around them like smoke, enticing yet horrifying. The ground beneath shifted, mirroring Jake's turmoil. You've always wanted power. Acceptance. Yearned for things you can't have. Let me show you what true depth lies within your desires. Jake's heart hammered painfully against his ribs, a familiar fear flooding back, the kind that had settled in the pit of his stomach during nights haunted by doubt and loneliness. He thought of Vivian, the Sugar Mommies, the allure of a life he thought would free him. But now, he could see it clearly, each desire wrapped tight in shadows, waiting to consume him whole. No. He shouted, pulling on every memory of light he and Melanie had shared. We refuse to feed that darkness. We determine who we are. Melanie squeezed his hand tighter, their connection a lifeline, anchoring him against the chaos. Something deep within flickered hope, the enormous figure flickered as if threading between realities, taunting them. The shadows around him twisted violently, threatening to penetrate their defenses. Your memories will betray you. Their weights, chains choking your spirit. It roared, the disdain crackling through the air like thunder, but Jake wasn't backing down. You are not the fears we've carried. You're just a reflection of what we've lived through. And we will face you together. At that moment, courage surged within him. He focused on the laughter they had shared, the countless hours picking through the wreckage of his past, the late-night talks filled with dreams, a flicker of love igniting clarity within. We can defeat this. He asserted decisively. The figure's howls intensified, resonating through the chamber with a chilling might. You can't escape your nightmares. It bellowed, the shadows vibrating with its menace. As fear clawed at him, threatening to unravel his newfound strength, Melanie focused on her breathing, rising above it, her voice soothing in the chaos. Remember who you are, Jake. You have fought too long to let this define you. We are a tapestry of both light and dark, but we choose our legacy. Their fists clenched, resolute, the light within them glowed brighter, pushing away the shadows threatening to smother them. With each shared breath, love ignited power, a beautiful fusion that lashed out against the darkness. This is our story. They cried out, their voices merging into a defiant crescendo that shook the very foundation they stood upon. The figure writhed, a distorted reflection of anguish. You dare challenge the essence of what you fear? You cannot comprehend what you invite. No. Jake's words were steady, solid as rock. You aren't the choice I'll make. With that, he felt a surge of energy pushing forth, illuminating the dark. Each flicker of hope dispatched the spectre's looming presence, inching closer toward a river of light. As light cascaded from them, the shadows screeched in agony, the malevolent figure twisted and shrank back. The colors around them brightened, a promise of dawn awakening from the long night. The shadows fragmented, dissolving into wisps before the encroaching brilliance, but just as Jake's heart soared with triumph, the remnants of darkness recoiled, swirling together like a vortex, growing chaotic and fierce. This isn't over. It howled, struggling against the overwhelming wave of light. The fight rages within you. Face it. Breathless from the battle, Jake met Melanie's gaze. Are we strong enough for what's coming? He questioned both her and himself. Together, we always are. She replied, determination igniting her eyes. They faced the shadow, united, a tapestry woven from anguish, resilience, heartache, strength unmatched. I choose love, I choose family, Jake declared as the light matured, defying the tenebrous mass invading their space, beating back the darkness inch by inch. But then came another tremor, more sinister, intertwining fear and challenge, morphing into grotesque silhouettes. More of their pain coalesced into memories, confrontations they wished to forget. Every regret, every moment of uncertainty materialized, reminding him of battles never truly conquered. Together. Melanie called out, guiding him back to clarity. Forward. They shouted in unison, channeling hope and light into a blinding beam that ruptured through the shadows. Jake pushed against the pain, choosing the warmth of the moments they had shared over the bitter darkness. With one final surge of resolve, they hurled their combined light against the beast of shadows, a brilliant blast erupting like fireworks against a pitch-black sky. The roaring void pulsed and, with one last chaotic cry, fractured against the overwhelming brilliance, shrieking into the void until it vanished, leaving silence in its wake. Together, they staggered, breathless, disheveled but triumphant. The air grew lighter, the weight of shadows evaporating into nothingness. Glimmers of dawn broke into view, the first beams illuminating the remnants of their battle. Did we just defeat it? Melanie whispered, disbelief woven into her words. I think we did, Jake replied, a cautious grin playing on his lips, the warmth of victory flooding him. But as soft rays began to cascade over them, illuminating a fresh day, a tremor flickered through the ground beneath their feet. A distant voice echoed ominously, hinting that shadows might revisit when least expected. What now? Melanie asked, uncertainty crept back. We stay vigilant. Jake nodded, determination etching certainty in his voice. This fight may resurface, but we've faced darkness before. We know the light is there, and together, we will face it again. With renewed hope, they stepped forward, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever shadows might come, empowered, unyielding, and forever entwined in love. And no matter what awaited them, they had each other. Jake's heart swelled. This journey was about choice, resilience, and the light that could not be extinguished. Together, they would not just endure but thrive, proving that even the deepest shadows cannot overcome the power of love. Now hang on. Before you go, I need your help. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a difference. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear from you. Finally, Don T. wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. The adventure continues, but only with you on board.